Auburn fan base. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. Talking Auburn football, go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Okay. This is not breaking news. This is not something profound. But I wanted to talk about the fact that Auburn fans really have to channel their expectations when it comes to this Bryan Harsin regime that is about to happen at Auburn. Number one, he's pieced together a pretty decent set of assistant coaches. Coaches who are young, coaches who have had some NFL experience, coaches who have had some head coaching in the SEC experience, coaches who have had head coaching jobs in Power 5 football, some non-Power 5. You got some young guys who are up and coming, a very diverse staff. But one of the common denominators of this staff is it appears that there's going to be some development going on, and there's going to be some educated approaches to the big games versus, say, when Auburn plays against their big name teams with the Gus Malzahn era, to where there just seems to be an egg laid in these games. So what I want to help you guys out with is this. Yes, it would be excellent if Bryan Harsin comes out, makes a run for the SEC championship, makes a run for the national championship, perhaps in his first year. That would be absolutely great. But the residual effect is what really stains the Auburn fan base. Let's look at this. Back in the Terry Bowden era, Terry Bowden had the benefit of inheriting a very talented squad of players via the Pat Dye regime. He all but won a national championship in 1993. The Auburn Tigers were on probation at that time. Couldn't go to the national championship game. I think maybe they would have won, especially with the setup at that time, depending on who the bowl game setup would have been. But at the same time, there was a lot of stuff that happened that year, similar to even the 2010 national championship game, where Auburn actually needed 4 interceptions returned for a touchdown against Florida to actually win that year, the first year of Terry Bowden's career. And I will say this, you want to see stuff that's sustainable. And 4 touchdowns off of interceptions is not something that's sustainable. Terry Bowden had that big year. He had an okay year the next year, and it started to kind of trickle down to the point where he just couldn't sustain himself as far as personnel and with the Auburn fan base. Tommy Tuberville was probably the only coach that I can think of in recent history that had a level of sustainability. He started out kind of slow, plateaued around 2004. Then he had some respectable teams in 2006, 2007, and then kind of fizzled out in 2008. That was probably the most sustainable period in recent history of Auburn football. As a matter of fact, that was a good time. You knew what to expect. You knew that there was going to be some adequate preparation for football games. Then it just fizzled out. Then you talk about Gene Chizik comes in 2009, had a pretty, had an okay year, 8-5, won the, I think it was a Citrus Bowl against Northwestern, had a lot of crazy stuff going on there. Got up to a 21-0 lead, I think. Almost squandered that, had to go into overtime. The next year, on comes Cam Newton. Cam Newton with, I think, probably one of the least talented teams, as far as a championship caliber team, led that team to a national championship. The next year, Auburn falls completely apart. Well, no, they didn't fall completely apart the next year. Made it to the Peach Bowl, beating Clemson. But that next year in 2000 and I think it was 2012, Auburn completely falls apart, and on comes Gus Malzahn. Gus Malzahn, former offensive coordinator, helped Auburn to a 2010 national championship with Cam Newton and company. He comes in 2013, goes straight to the national championship. Had a lot of lucky stuff going on. The prayer at Jordan Hare against Georgia, the kick six against Alabama. All of that stuff is just not sustainable. Goes to the national championship game up 21-3 against Florida State. Winds up losing that game. The expectations are sky high. This was a situation between 2010 and 2013. Chris Davis and a couple of other players on that team had the opportunity to win 2 national championships during their tenure. That's something that would have never happened at Auburn. Had Auburn had stopped Florida State and won that national championship, this conversation that I'm having with you all wouldn't even be happening. What do I want for Bryan Harsin? If I'm just a selfish guy, what I want for Bryan Harsin, yes, I'm not going to downplay this. I would love an SEC championship. I would even love a national championship. But what the Auburn fan base doesn't know is that you want sustainability. You want a situation where, yes, you have a solid season first year. The schedule is set up perfectly for Kevin Harsin to have a soft landing and have a solid season. Maybe even considering the way the schedule is set up, talk about going 5-0 going into the LSU game and let the chips fall as they may. But the magic, the kick sixes, all of these non-sustainable things, if it happens for Bryan Harsin, let's just say he goes to the SEC championship, appears in a national championship game. You can't sustain that. You don't. It's kind of similar to a music artist that has this banging album, his first album. How many times have you seen an artist be able to duplicate that album? It usually doesn't happen. What I want is a gradual ascension to national championship, SEC championship ascension. Almost happened to Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart came to Auburn, I think, in 2016. He led Georgia to the national championship game in 2017. He lost that game. And he should have lost it. Now, given the circumstances, he actually should have won the game. Got beat in overtime by Devonta Smith, who is arguably one of the best wide receivers in Alabama history in that overtime situation. But Kirby Smart is still gradually having the opportunity to get Georgia to the level that they need to be. The one-hit wonder thing at Auburn has got to stop. And I think it stops with Bryan Harsin. I think Auburn will have a pretty good year this year. They'll win at least 8 games. And nobody will be like, okay, this is absolutely terrible. They'll probably win their bowl game because I think Bryan Harsin has a level of development to where he's going to have his teams prepared for each game, especially looking at the coaching staff that he has. But what I don't want Auburn fans to do is put the cart before the horse. Give this thing a chance to develop. Immediate success is okay, but usually immediate success is not sustainable. And we've seen it in past coaching staffs at Auburn. So for Bryan Harsin, what I would like to see is a really solid brand of football, a real solid approach to the football game, a really solid approach to recruiting, to where this thing can go long term. I just saw an article to where Auburn's football facility is going to be like $91.9 million. That's the stuff we're talking about. We ain't talk what, I mean, yeah, it'll be great if Auburn is ultra successful in Bryan Harsin's first year. But what you need to see is something kind of like Bruce Pearl. When Bruce Pearl first came to Auburn, it was gradual. He had some success. He developed the players that he had. Next thing you know, Auburn goes to the Final Four. And now, and here's a footnote, the easiest way to recruit is to win. Now he's able to get guys like Sharif Cooper, who, I mean, you take Sharif Cooper out of the equation and Auburn is a totally different basketball team. Y'all told me that he, in the comment section, because y'all don't know it, I look at the comment section. Big shout out to F. Fitzgerald Scott, some of my other guys that comment pretty often, Kenneth Sims, Danny Blackman, who was actually a Georgia fan. I look at y'all's comments and I want gradual stuff, man, because I'm in business myself. And immediate success really frightens me because there's not a lot of meat behind it. Just as quickly as you ascend, you can fall that quick. And we've seen that from the past Auburn coaching staffs. What do you guys think about this? Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Also, check my guys out at The War Report. I think they're going to be coming on tomorrow. They usually do their facts or nah video on Fridays. Please check those guys out. Mike G, Ike. Check those guys out. They do a great job over there, especially with the live streams and the interaction. But what do y'all think? I mean, do you want Auburn to go to a national championship game this year only to be mad at Bryan Harsin because he can't duplicate that success year in and year out? Or would you rather him gradually get to a point to where Auburn is a sustainable, successful program? Like the video, comment, and subscribe. And as always, great to be an Auburn Tiger. War damn Eagle.